Okay. I know we have a quorum. You just need to be seated.
I know.
Yeah. Okay. We're going to get started. I know we have Board Member Baum. Vice President Epstein is chatting it up with Julie Bruno. Everybody's exuberant, but we need to get rolling. Okay, thank you. All right. Our next item is item 2.3, the 2018-2019 Expenditure Plan for Workforce and Economic Development. Vice Chancellor Executive Vice Chancellor Von Ton Quinlivan will present. Go ahead, Von, take it away.
Good morning, President Estolano, Vice President Epstein, Chancellor Oakley, and members of the board. And hopefully our audio visual will go live so that we can see the slides.
But we also have our PowerPoint in front of us.
Great.
Right here. Okay.
I'm also joined by members of my dean team, Lynn Shaw to my left and Javier Romero, in case there are additional questions that need to be fielded. So this is our annual process where we bring to you our entire expenditure plan. And we ask for your approval so that we can process the administrative steps needed in order to move money into the field. Actual grants and contracts that are over $100,000 will be brought back to you, as you know. So just a few slides to refresh the types of investments that have occurred in the last year under this bucket. We had been successful in scaling a whole set of innovative workforce models. If you remember a few years back, we had discussed the fact that the skills gap is so great and the needs of regional economies are so great that it's very difficult for one college to solve all the issues alone. And so we've been working in somewhat of an experimentation to see if we can actually engage networks of college to mobilize and to begin solving some of these workforce problems. We've done some of the deep dives into these issues, these programs in front of you, and we're happy to do any further deep dives of areas of interest. So last time you saw an overview of the New World of Work, 21st Century Skills, which brought in badging, but also really tackled this area of great complaints by the employers, which is around soft skills, employability skills. We were able to start with 10 colleges, and now it's on track to hit 35 by the end of this year. We've been also facilitating connecting community colleges into the maker movement through these maker spaces in order to develop transferable STEM skills, especially for those economies that need STEM skills, needing 4 C's: the critical thinking, the communication, the creativity, the collaboration, and a sprinkle of entrepreneurship. So the CCC Maker is now mobilizing at 26 colleges, and has brought our community colleges a lot of recognition there and a lot of collaboration with the 4 years. Work-based learning in collaboration with our foundation. There are now 34 colleges receiving technical assistance through a set of work-based learning tools and planning process. And you've seen a deep dive previously on apprenticeship. So with the work support of the foundation as well, we have had 3,200 pre-apprentices and 700 apprentices supported through the California Apprenticeship Initiative in order to get apprenticeship as a model out into non-traditional areas beyond the building trades, which we also invest in the building trades, but we're also expanding to non-traditional areas. We continue to hold the course in terms of implementing the strong workforce task force recommendations that you had adopted. Some highlights for this year: we released a public-facing version of the launch board tools, which shows the progress of colleges against their accountability measures. We rolled out in the first year the 17% positive incentive, which is a performance-based funding based on outcomes. So this is the first year rollout. you are seeing the second reading of the apprenticeship minimum qualifications today. Significant progress on that, so we expect closure on that issue. We had gotten a lot of feedback from the field in restructuring our sector strategy, and so those RFAs are out right now. And you've received a deep dive on the CTE rebrand campaign, which was to bring greater visibility and awareness to students and employers on the value of career education programs. The third area I want to quickly highlight is the imperative for vision success and guided pathway has facilitated really a whole kind of value and around integration. And so here's an example of how we've lived the integration here in the Chancellor's office. When faced with the rollout of where do we house the accountability key performance indicators for guided pathway, we were faced with three choices. One, do we build it from scratch, which based on our experience with the launch board, it was quite a multi-year undertaking. Second, do we buy a brand new data system? And then third is, do we just add a new tab into our launch board tool, which all 114 colleges already had? And that would take a month and a half. And so the Chancellor's office decided, with feedback from the field on the obvious, and we were able to deliver on time the expansion of the launch board for use in other areas beyond workforce. So I think that's an area of greater integration that has proved to be more effective and cost savings as well. We also did a similar thing with a tool that we originally developed on the workforce side, which was called NOVA. And this was to give visibility to how colleges plan, invest, and track the monies from the workforce division. And so we also took the NOVA tool, and with championship from Executive Vice Chancellor Hope, we also integrated guided pathway and other sources of funds into here so that the colleges have one tool to think through their allocation, ideation, proposal, approval, and reporting phases so that they can have greater visibility to all the funds that they have and begin to braid it, because there's no pot of fund that is sufficient to do everything that is needed to achieve their vision for success goal. So having visibility to all their buckets of money and how it comes together, but more importantly, to have the side-by-side view of the accountability data, so the outcomes as they think about how to invest. That is a key goal of ours, to be able to have side-by-side use of that data as colleges determine how to invest in interventions for students. And then we also have taken advantage of both of these tools in order to support the adult education block grant. So again, you have the possibility, do we create something brand new, or do we begin to converge these tools in order to, so that the colleges have one password to these suite of tools. And so here, the adult education pipeline, the AEBG program, is also leveraging the launch board and the NOVA as its common planning tool and integration accountability tool. So in conclusion, these are the elements of the expenditure plan for the workforce and economic division, and we're open for questions.
Executive Vice Chancellor Tom Quinlan, since we have a couple of, actually a few new board members here, this is their first pass at how we actually allocate these funds. It's a significant amount of funding that's provided through the California Community College Chancellor's Office. Can you talk about how the expenditure plan works in relation to the actual expenditures and how that happens throughout the year?
Yes, so there is legislative language behind each one of these line items. And for the dollars, especially the really big ones like Strong Workforce Program and the Adult Ed Block Grant, and even the nursing grant and the apprenticeship program. Well, all right, so all of them, they have very it's very detailed language in terms of how we must allocate monies, and so not much is up to left to discretion. For example, the Strong Workforce Program was intended to close the gap on our state's need for 1 million more middle skill credentials. Remember, these are the ones where it's more than a high school but less than a baccalaureate degree. So training emergency medical technicians or radiologist technicians. These are all middle school credentials. And so there's 5% that allows us some discretion, like we can spend it on technical assistance or developing tools for the field. But the rest of it is 60% go out by formula specified in the bill to local colleges, and then 40% go to the region, where the region's worth of colleges must come together after they look at labor market data, they look at where's the gap, and they consult all their partners in the region before they can spend the money and make investments. So basically, we have a lot of details behind these in terms of how it's specified, and then every year we also have a legislative report that we owe detailing how the monies were used. It's a lot of process. That's why we ask you to approve in advance.
You guys got a little of that wash over you in that first. More of it will sink in as you go through. Very good. So this is a great time to take questions of any board members. Board Member Belansky.
I mean, this is a great a program or great method of assisting with today's world. How do you get more colleges involved to use the tools that are available?
Are you talking about the launch board tool and the NOVA tool?
Yeah, and any of the other things around that you might have.
So many methods. For example, the rollout of the launch board was no small undertaking. The good news was that because the strong workforce deliberation had had a window, we knew that it was coming up. So part of it was setting out incentives to the field so that, for example, every college, if they are able to send a key team to the training for how to use the launch board, it would unlock $50,000 in funds to help them with technical assistance and training at the local level to integrate launch board into their local data system, or to clean up their data, which is the source of the launch board data. So we did that, and then we rolled out Strong Workforce Program, which required them to use the launch board data as a prerequisite for planning. So I think these are just steps to get the field familiar, but both of these tools have 114 colleges on them. Yes, it's a requirement, right.
All right, in the queue I have board members Fawn and then Avalos. Anybody else? Okay, go ahead, board member Fawn.
Thank you, Executive Vice Chancellor. I can't find another person who has the passion, talents, and skill and speed to actually oversee such a tremendous undertaking by the Chancellor's Office on this WED program, Workforce and Economic Development. On the multiple elements of the whole program, the nursing program, quite a substantial amount is devoted to it, I guess, this coming year. Is this to actually provide our students with the full RN degree or the full nursing program at the at the community college level without having to go to the four-year institutions?
This is, we've gone around the block wanting to have the ability to do the 4-year. As you know, there's a significant shortage of that level, the bachelor level trained nurses. However, that is not that is not authorized for us to do that. So this is training students at the AA level for nursing, and it's based, the monies go out based on colleges raising their hand and saying, we're going to serve X amount of students, and then the formula generates the monies that they would get. Here.
So if I may follow up on that, then so there are pilot programs for the baccalaureate degrees in various things, and I don't know if this is an appropriate time to bring this up.
It's an excellent question
You go right
to
ahead.
ask.
Okay, oh, thank you.
Ask
If
the
you say
obvious
so,
question.
President and Chancellor.
Yes, absolutely.
And the reason is I just was talking to a CSU student very recently, and she said, hey, Professor, it's so weird in that here I know a friend who has 3.9 GPA and could not get into a nursing program at the CSU campus. And faced with that question, and looking here at the multiple dollars that the state government is allocating to this, I'm just scratching my head, and I mean, you guys are all smarter than I am. What can we do actually to move this? Because the shortage of the nurses is severe in our state.
Perhaps the chancellor will help me out on this question.
That is the right question. We clearly have a workforce shortage. There has been a task force convened of the three systems of higher ed, along with educational or healthcare employers. That was convened by the University of California to look at the pipeline. And again, this issue was brought forward as a critical need. But the challenge has been the political will to allow the California community colleges to offer the BSN. The BSN was the whole point of even beginning the conversation about baccalaureates in the community colleges. If there is one area of clear demand, that is the one. It's appropriate that Vice Chancellor Mattoon walked in right when we were having this discussion. This has been a topic of conversation in our office, as well as with what I think is most people would agree is the informal leader of the baccalaureate movement in the community colleges, Chancellor Constance Carroll. We think that we will probably need to take this on again. This will not in any way, shape, or form be an easy lift. We'll need to see what the incoming administration thinks about this issue. But clearly there's a demand, and it is our job to fulfill that demand. So I'm hopeful that we will come back to the board at a future meeting and talk more specifically about this.
I'm so glad you asked that question. It's always important to highlight the obvious needs that aren't being addressed. All right, Board Member Avalos, followed by Board Member Shaw and Board Member Baum and Haynes. I got it.
Thank you for the presentation. Quick question for you. Maybe it's not a quick question, but it's a question. The question is, when we're, we've been at this strong workforce program for a bit now, and we've allocated, quite a bit of money to the program. Can you give us some highlights, some data points that say, it's working? So that would be amazing to just get a little view on how it's going. And then secondly, are there areas that we can help you with that might be the blockers that are preventing the program from being even more successful?
So why don't I start out, and then I'll ask Lynn Shaw to give it some flavor. There is a little bit of a lag time that the colleges had forewarned us about, and that is as the money flows in the first year, there's a lag for them before they start enrolling students, and then we see outcomes. So we can only see early indicators on whether or not are they doing more career education or better career education. We do see, so we're looking at how they're investing, and we're hearing some very positive news. For example, recently it was shared with us that Amazon and cloud computing is working with the 18 colleges of the LA area in order to create a cloud computing certificate. That's a very hot area in a great demand. So we're beginning to see seeding of programming that is very much what the employers want. And we have to wait a little bit to see the data reflected into the launch board in terms of student outcomes.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much. I co-chaired the task force, and we had several recommendations that you approved, and we've been working diligently on them. And one of the ways we sort of track is we collect artifacts that demonstrate work on a specific recommendation. And there are 25 recommendations with many, many sub-bullets, so it's about 84. But we have 211 pieces of evidence on our website right now showing that the work being done. And I'll just give you one example. a couple of the statewide faculty leaders came to me and said, you know, I think it's an urban myth that faculty are so underpaid and so industry won't be interested in working with us. So what you need to do is you need to look at the full package, you know, the benefits, the summer pay, the overload, all the things that faculty do that is not reflected in the job description. And so we did a short study about that, and that is posted on the website. And thanks to Lynette, the president of the California Community College Association, she's the one that came to me with that idea. It did show that it was pretty comparable in terms of the pay when you look at the full package. So that is like a direction for us to take to recruit industry experts into our classroom that we hadn't considered before, with doing some very simple things about how we recruit. So that's one example.
Board Member Avalos, if I could add to that, the full implementation of the Vision for Success would go a long way to infuse career education in everything that we do. I think for too long we've treated strong workforce as a separate and apart initiative from the academic mission of the California Community Colleges. It is one and the same, and we need to continue to move it in that direction. We need to continue to eliminate the silos that exist, not just in our office and the Chancellor's office, but these silos are replicated across every one of our 114 colleges. There's career education on one side of the building or one side of the campus, and then the rest of the academic mission on the other side. Our students, whether they're veterans, foster youth, students coming right out of high school, everyone is interested in employment. And the more we can infuse career education, career exploration into the Guided Pathways framework, into everything that we're doing, the better off we're going to be. So we see this as an important part of the Vision for Success, that we really drive the integration across all parts of what we do. So that's a topic we will continue to talk about with the board.
Okay, Board Member Shaw, followed by Board Members Baum and Haynes.
Well, I'm kind of sick too today. Board Member Avalos really asked my question, but I want to just commend Executive Vice Chancellor and everything that she does and everybody involved. It's a very complicated and wide-ranging subject area. But I'm going to ask the question again because maybe I didn't hear the answer. Is that what is it, and if you could be non-political, what is it that you need that you're not getting?
Ooh.
I will take the flak for whatever you say, Bob, so just say what's on your mind.
We're now in a phase where administratively move monies out. What we wanted to do was to align monies, metrics, and data so that, you know, the wind is all blowing in the same direction for the colleges. So there's no, they're fully supported in that way. What would help us, and this is also, my own team is going to begin doing this year, is every time we meet with the college or we're in front of an audience, we start talking about the outcomes, the Vision for Success outcomes, how they're doing in the region against this outcome, how they're doing against the sector against the outcomes. So the more that we're talking about the outcomes that we want in Vision for Success, which are the same metrics as the Strong Workforce Program, I think we will begin to have an echo chamber, and people will know that that is important to us.
Thank you. Board Member Baum, followed by Board Member Haynes.
Yeah, I just want to, again, pick up on Member Avalos's comment, too. You shared a few data points, too, but when can we expect to see a dashboard, both for this and for Vision for Success, so that we can, that will help me help advocate for the system if I have some regular metrics that we're looking at on a regular basis that we can hold ourselves accountable.
So if you can look back at the slide, on this slide that has to do with the launch board, we actually have public facing but data available to you. I'm wondering if we should do a deep dive that features how you use these tools.
Right, but I don't want a deep dive. I want a systematic one-page or two-page dashboard that we can then use, because I had the privilege of, I was in DC and met with our new lobbying firm, and one of the things that I think if
we're effective advocates for ourselves, but we'd be even more effective if the business community was advocating for community colleges. The people, the employers were advocating for community colleges. I want to go to an employer and say, here's your ROI for what you can do for community colleges. So it's not a question, but I'd like to boil this down into a few digestible data points that we could take in, rather than, I'm glad that it's all available, and I also, when I was a local trustee, I'd then go, obviously when the state would put out numbers, I'd go exactly and then see what my district, how in a hit was performing against a cohort, and so I'm eager to have that.
Maybe that's something that we can incorporate into your Friday communications.
Or just a regular. I found out, for example, when we did the associate degree for transfer, and we had a chart, and we saw which district and how many districts had adopted the degrees, and we can kind of measure that meeting to meeting to meeting. Now, obviously, these are all going to be more annual numbers, but there was a period where there was a student success report card that would come out. How many degrees were awarded? What are success rates? Also interested in achievement gaps among different groups, and how are they being met as well, too.
We can do that.
Okay, and then Board Member Haynes.
Thank you. There's several things. One, I want to recognize the amount of money going to attrition reduction. That is really key given the number of slots that are available, and when you have and the cost of each one of those slots in terms of training a nurse. And so as we look at, I'll use the R word, the reforming potentially, or at least relooking at the nursing program, I'm hoping that this particular program is a costly one, given the science that's required and all of the prereqs that are required before you're even placed in the lottery. And I know from my past experience with this program that the lottery system is in place because there were fewer nursing students of color that made it through the pipeline. So I understand the intention of having a lottery, but there are unintended consequences of having a lottery. My own personal experiences with a particular individual who had met all of the pre-quals to be placed in the lottery at a 3.25 grade point average, was in the lottery for 5 times and then gave up. So there's an inequity relative to who is prepared to get in and who doesn't, by virtue of the lottery itself, doesn't get in. And so there may be other ways of looking at changing that, one that recognizes we need to have a diverse, ethnically and racially diverse population of nurses, given that diversity in the state, but then also recognizes that the lottery doesn't do all that it should do. And then finally, my own personal experience with being on a community college district that has 2 nursing programs, one at American River College and the other at Sacramento City College, that has done a fabulous job. And our board looked at putting our hat in for the baccalaureate degree and chose not to do so, not because it was the most logical place to go, but the other piece of this is the cost we felt to our other programs, that our colleges and our faculty and our staff, we were being asked to make huge changes across our districts, and to add the BA might have sort of tipped the scales of not doing anything too well. So I just wanted to share that particular note. This is a wonderful program. We got to figure out a way to increase the number of slots for this program so that we are really maximizing the number of students that are prepared and want to go into this field.
Board Member DeLilly, followed by Board Member Walker-Griffin.
Thank you, Executive Vice Chancellor. I think something that's very unique to the Strong Workforce Program is sort of the requirement of the program to progress with technology, business needs, the climate, especially in California, of technology and industry. So my question is, how are we able to continue progressing the Strong Workforce Program with the business climate? And you spoke about the cloud services with Amazon. How are we able to continue keeping what we're doing with the program aligned with the trends of technology and the trends of industry, especially in California?
There's a number of structural elements. One is that we have seeded every region with labor market technical assistance. So there's dedicated experts who are supporting colleges as they need to do the analytics on where they make the investment. The other that is happening is colleges, and I'm sure Member Fawn can attest to this, it's a lot of effort for a single faculty to support a whole advisory board, and that's required for career education program. And so what we have done, I mean, what the field has essentially done is, because we're looking at it at a regional level, regional scale, they are beginning to regionalize many of these advisories, because you don't need to have the same hospital attend, 28 advisories in the Bay Area, right? So in order to have region-scaled advisory, that has actually made it easier for employers to engage with us in a substantive way.
Board Member Walker Griffin.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Executive Vice Chancellor. I'm going to pick your brain out, so I do apologize for the large amount of questions. But I'm just curious to know how this is going to help out people in low-income areas, especially people who are first-generation students. And I'm kind of thinking more along the lines of in the summer, when typically if you show up to a college, practically dead, no one's there. Especially those, since this is revolving around K through 12 and college, how is it going to help out parents who have kids who want to take some classes maybe like in the summer, like I said, when typically community colleges are dead?
So we will start, maybe the best way to answer that is, we start with the data. So the data in the launch board, and it was very clear from the social advocacy group that participated on the task force that they wanted to see the data broken out by ethnicity, by first generation, by all sorts of compositions, so that you can see whether or not communities are participating in these programs. And so we start with the data, and then as we get more experience with using the data, then we also begin working on partnering with ancillary systems. So we rolled out a round one of partnerships to unlock social mobility. And it's actually having our colleges meet the public workforce system in order for the two communities to figure out how do we actually braid our resources together to help students, or from their point of view, clients, get into the system and get education. Round two this year, partnership to unlock social mobility will be focused on inmate education. There's roughly $37 million going out through the labor agency for that. And so we want our colleges and that system to talk and see how many more in our communities can help. So again, we have to start with the data, because it's very different by program, whether or not there's adverse impact. And then we begin marrying up partners in order to really do a better job at bringing our communities into these worlds.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from members of the board? So I don't have a question, but I have a comment. Appreciate your PowerPoint presentation and the ability to, or the chance to ask you all these random questions, somewhat related and totally related to workforce education. Board Member Baum talked about wanting to have that dashboard or some sort of a summary, and I'm kind of keeping a tally of everything that everybody's requesting. But if we do come back, I think the thing that I'm most interested in, Vaughn, is getting a sense of how we're doing by sector. Right. I mean, you've organized folks regionally and by sector, and it would be great to know, say, in bioscience, how are we doing in advanced manufacturing? And it's also more digestible, because we tend to think of, we could do it by region, but we can also do it by sector, and you can have a sense of who's doing great in what particular sector. You're not going to do everything, but it might be nice to have some highlights to understand where there's the best collaborations happening. Because your point about having these industry advisory councils, industry gets the same really good actor in industry gets asked to do everything over and over and over again. And what the beauty of this program is just trying to leverage those resources of the private sector with our tremendous resources at the community colleges. So it'd be really nice to see where that collaboration is working well and where we've been able to move the needle if we have the data yet. I totally heard you, what you said about the lag time. It was a lot to push the money out the door, set up the systems to get the money out the door to align the metrics with the data, with the funding. So maybe a couple years, but maybe we can talk offline, but at some point it'd be great to hear a few things, a few highlights of a few sectors where things are working well and maybe some where there have been some problems and how we might address those, to go to the point of what do you need that you're not getting. It would be good for the board to understand some of the impediments of trying to use this approach, this integrated approach towards sector and regional strategies. With that, I'm going to entertain a motion. This is, remember, we are approving the expenditure plan. Whoa, sorry. Board Member Belansky.
I move that we approve the
Beautiful.
2018-2019
Beautiful. I need a second.
expenditure plan of the Workforce and Economic Development Division.
All right, I have a second by Board Member Dalili. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you. Okay, that is item 2.3. While we still have Executive Vice Chancellor Don Quinlivan, we're going to take up item 4.2, which is the Education Technology Roadmap. Vaughn, are you still good on time?
Yes.
Okay. The assessment phase.
All right.
Wow, look at that.
Please let me
Really?
introduce Dr.
Okay.
Omid Pozanjani, who is visiting Vice Chancellor from the field. He will join me in laying out the Education Technology Roadmap. As you remember, this was an agenda item from last time, but
Yes.
you were running really long, and we wanted you fresh for this exciting presentation. So if you take a look at the vision for success that you adopted, there were some commentaries on our education technology portfolio. Basically, it stated that the Chancellor's Office should review its entire education technology portfolio. Many of the CCC's technology platforms are managed separately, which is an implication around silos. And the Chancellor's Office should assert greater oversight of these various technologies to ensure that they are functioning in alignment with one another and in the service of students. So this is the charter that you gave us that we began to operationalize, and I began this work with the help of Dr. Pozanjani, but we also retain an objective third-party firm, Alvarez and Marcel, who brought in technology expertise to really look at our entire education technology portfolio. So we're giving you the short version, which is up there, but the long version is this.
Props are always good.
Props are good. So they're in tiny fonts. We actually look at the entirety of all of our projects across all of the categorical funding streams. It is very impressive in its amount. So I think you'll just see from the optics that there was a lot of work to do. Given that you have asked us to look at the goals of Vision for Success, which behind that is really a call for integration, and in order to move guided pathway, which is also a call for integration, but also focus on the student and the student journey. And so we took it from that lens in evaluating how should the technology portfolio move forth. And furthermore, the Department of Finance supported this work by actually collapsing a whole set of categoricals into one called the Integrated Technology Categorical for this coming year, which made it easier for us to actually take technologies that are in different contracts and grants and begin to work them together. So for example, single sign-on for a tool. You know, the use of Launchboard, the use of Nova, there's no reason for us to have a proliferation of sign-ons when they're all Chancellor's Office tools. So that's a simple example. So we wanted to share with you that we did the homework. We had all the technology teams review what they were doing and how they were doing it. We had them present to each other, And I think they also came to the conclusion that it was necessary to do the integration and then to figure out how to streamline some of these technology work. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Porjanzani to talk about the road forward.
Good morning. Probably the best way to explain the circuit board design that you see on the screen is to use an analogy. I'm assuming most of you have used Amazon to buy something. Now, you might remember that Amazon started out selling books, and you might remember that it was all venture capital funded, right? Then they brought in gardening tools and appliances and all kinds of other things. Imagine if every one of those venture capital funding streams demanded Amazon to create a separate website with its own URL and color scheme and design and user experience for each of those activities. Now, not only that, imagine if the shopping cart was done by a different vendor with different scheme and experience versus the actual searching through the database versus where you actually compare products together. Can you visualize what that would look like? Right? That's sort of what we have done. That chart we had shown you is that, right? So you certainly wouldn't have that user experience that you want, even if everyone at Amazon said, this is really crazy, we're not really getting the user experience we want, we're going to stamp every one of our products and collaterals with the same color scheme. That still wouldn't give you the same experience, right? You want the same experience for the user from the moment they come to search for a product to the moment they go into the shopping cart and they buy something. So if it's so important for Amazon to try to sell a $2 item to us, how much more important is it for us to get a student who comes and shows an interest to the finish line? That's really critical. We're trying to get them from low income to middle income jobs, and we're creating silo solutions that don't really walk the student through the process. So this restructuring you see here is to change the profile, the activities, the characteristics of the tools and technologies that we have in a way that allows the student to move through the system in a seamless way, with a seamless experience. So I'll give you an example that's related to our colleges. We have the students fill out an application, obviously. That application goes to the college. The college looks at that application. There are fields in that application we've asked. What career do you want to pursue? What major, what college you want to go to? When the college gets that information, they don't really know what to do with it because they call it as uninformed, right? The career selection, the major selection is uninformed. Now we have a tool, we have multiple tools, for career planning. But the data from the career planning tool doesn't carry into the application, and from the application doesn't carry into the college. So connecting these pieces together is a significant work that needs to be done. And it's not just changing the color of the screen buttons to make this work. So really, the restructuring had to be around that, having the student seamlessly walk from recruitment all the way to completion. I want to highlight just a couple of items. Obviously, there's a lot on this board, but we want to make sure that security and data management and architecture and accessibility are all carried through everything that we build in a consistent way. I'm going to take a couple of these. Let's take the data sciences tool, because that's interesting. All of them are interesting to me, but I'll just highlight one. We've done a lot of research and analytics in the past, where we write a white paper and we bring it to you, or it goes to the legislators, and maybe years later, decisions are made that will hopefully influence the behavior of students or the colleges and make them more successful. If you shopped at Amazon, you know that those kinds of analysis are done real time and brought to you real time to affect your decision making right then. And so students make hundreds of decisions throughout their academic journey that we're not supporting in real time, or we're not supporting as well as we could. So the data sciences tools is for us to pull all the data together and then figure out how we provide that real-time support data to students so they can make more effective decisions as they go on through the journey. And we'll be working with the colleges, obviously, to do this, but we want to make sure we have the infrastructure in place to provide that support. So we talk about students in a very generic term, as if all students are equal, created equally, but we know they're not, right? We know that there's a very big difference between a student who starts from high school and says, I'm going to go to a community college and then I'm going to transfer. I want to get an AA degree in the middle of that. Versus a student that says, I've got children, I'm working 2 jobs, I want to learn more about some career field so that I can get a better job, move into a middle income job. And I don't have 5 years or 6 years or 7 years to do this. So we have actually done 7 student journey maps that's not just around a student persona, you know, a transfer student versus a CTE student, but it actually narrates or articulates what is the experience of that student when they come to our colleges today, through the entire process. What is that experience? And what is the ideal experience we want them to have? Because we want that ideal experience to guide the tool design and the data analysis that we want for those students. And finally, I want to give a shout out to President Sonia Christensen, who's here, and Dr. Craig Hayward, who led this effort, actually. This is a sample tool, and I want to give you an example of the kinds of tools we're talking about. So think about the colleges. Every college has a catalog, it's required, right? If you go to the catalog, and let's say you want to major in chemistry, you look at the catalog, you open the catalog to chemistry, what you have listed there is all the courses a student needs to take for chemistry. It doesn't say any of the co-requisites, prerequisites, math courses, all the prerequisites for the math that they have to take. So the student has to figure this out, ideally meet with a counselor, but we know that we don't have enough counselors to meet that need. So the student sits down and has to say, I want to take this chemistry course, flips through the pages, what are the prerequisites for this? Oh, I have to take math, what are the prerequisites for the math course? And that becomes a very daunting task for a student who's first generation, never been to college, doesn't have anybody who support them through that process. What this does, this program mapper tool, and it's being tested right now at Bakersfield College. What it does is it takes every course a student needs to take from start to finish, including GE courses, and says, can I map this out for the student so the student gets a snapshot of what they need to take and what the precursor is to another course, really guides the student through this. This is a really good example of guided pathways, guiding the students through that pathway to completion. So these are the kinds of tools, the kind of data analytics that we want to bring to the students to better guide them through that process, but we need to have the technology infrastructure in place, which we're trying to do. So,
Great. Does that conclude your presentation?
That concludes it.
Wonderful. Okay, who's in the queue? Mr. Rawlings, Board Member Rawlings? Okay.
All right. Thank
All
you for
right.
the
Is that
presentation.
everybody? Are you? Okay. Board Member Rawlings, you start
Thank
here.
you. So thanks for the presentation. This is particularly interesting to me, just coming from an IT background. That's what I do over at Mount San Antonio College. So when I've taken a look at how distinct and discrete a lot of our systems are, both from the marketing side, the data side, and, I mean, you see all these different silos, and I see a lot of it here, and so much more behind the scenes. When we take a look at how we build this integration, one of the key issues is going to be what kind of platform are they running on the back end, and if we're using different vendors and different contracts, they may be using different platforms on their back end. And so that kind of gets to the point that was made earlier about trying to minimize and unify contracts, because then you're more likely to have a similar platform. How are we going to be driving these contracts and these contractors to a single platform, or are we going to create an infrastructure ourselves that they're going to tie into? I mean, how is the mechanics of that?
Excellent question, actually. So I'll give you an example of the program mapper that you saw. Colleges are buying these technology tools that allow students to do program mapping, the counselors to do program mapping. And every one of these tool vendors has their own proprietary way of storing that information. So now let's say the college doesn't want this tool anymore, they want a different tool, and that data that's stored in that box, so the program planner, is not used or tapped into by anybody else. So then what happens to those student plans? So to your point in terms of interoperability and connecting, having a consistent experience for the student, what we're building right now is we've pulled all of these program planning vendors together, product vendors, and we're having them talk about a standard way of storing student program plans and student education plans. So if the college decides they want to go from this tool vendor to another, the data is already there.
Thank you. I have Board Member Baum.
My question was similar to that. How many of these programs were developed internally, or how much of these technologies were outside vendors that we bought a product and put a different frame on it?
It's a mix. Some of it we've done, and some of it we've bought, or we negotiated statewide contract with them. But again, if we negotiated a statewide contract, that vendor brought their tool in, such as Career Coach as an example, but it's their tool. So the student could spend hours doing career planning using this tool. But then when they go to fill out an application, we have no knowledge of what they did.
So in a way, if we're successful, would it be like the Apple products? People can develop apps, but all be on the same platform, and then the apps that are most effective can be.
My dream would be to have an iPad experience for the students, right, which is seamless through I mean, there's technology backgrounds like APIs and web services to connect these things together, but for us, I think it's more important. The user experience needs to be seamless, and the data needs to flow from one piece to the next seamlessly. So we're not filling up buckets, moving between applications, saying, wait till tomorrow morning until the data comes across, so before you can use that tool.
Thank you. I'm encouraging you and others to continue, because we're obviously investing hundreds of millions of dollars in this, and we want to make it work better.
Thank you.
I have Board Member Haynes, followed by Fawn, Dalili, Walker Griffin, and Belansky. Anyone else want to join the party? Okay. Rawlings for another round. Okay. Board Member Haynes, please.
So what's the timeline on pushing this new integrated platform out?
Right. So right now, I think we're trying to extend the RFAs so that we can release the new RFAs, make sure we have a good turnout in terms of applicants. We have to go through that process of awarding the RFAs, which we'll bring to you. And then we'll have to work with them to transition from what we have today to the state we want to be. So I'm looking at Chancellor Oakley, because Chancellor Oakley wants everything in 3 months. So I'll say
Me too.
More than 3 months. But hopefully within a year period, we would like to get some of the benefits we would like out of this transition.
So will it be phased in, or are you looking for sort of a much more completed process within the year in which it all starts to run? What's the...
So maybe for the record, let this be known that this will be a journey. This will be a journey. And the 2018 journey, we have to restructure all of our grants and RFAs, as well as advisory bodies. We also noted as part of the assessment that there were a lot of, we were getting advice on all these technology deployment, but the advice was limited to maybe one element of the student journey and not comprehensive. And so, we're asking our advisories to rethink the composition so that we can get a more robust perspective. But the first thing that we have to do is get these contracts in a way so that we can get the right skill sets to do what's needed here. And I also want to note that we tread a very fine line. We want to make sure that colleges have their autonomy in terms of making technology decisions, but we also recognize it's difficult for one college to have enough oomph to negotiate with a vendor this type of integration. So we as a system, where it makes sense, want to help in that process.
And then my final question, which is a much deeper one. All 114 of our colleges are now moving to a much more guided pathways has made us look at scheduling, has made us look at curriculum and the alignment of that, and a much better pathway for students. It's much more student-centered. And this also is on that same kind of pathway and trajectory, all good things. And that also includes an alignment. But I'm wondering, and this really goes to the Chancellor's office, which has been also segmented relative to staff who've looked at financial aid, who've looked at all of these different. To what extent has there been any thought about the reorganization of the Chancellor's office to reflect this new alignment relative to staff?
I'd be happy to field that question, Board Member Hayes. I mean, your comments are right on. I mean, this is a fundamental reorganization of the entire way we do business throughout the system, and it's got to begin in this office. And the challenges that this issue is presenting are reflected right here in this office in terms of how we're looking at job descriptions, I mean, the Executive Vice Chancellor Tom Quinlivan's division is a good example of the reorganization. We're beginning to reorganize within divisions, across divisions, and that continues. Obviously, with the colleges as well as with this agency, there is a speed at which we need to take in order for the various representatives of the agency to be able to understand the changes that are happening, to hopefully buy into the changes that are happening, and within our regulations and requirements for reorganizing our operation, we have to patiently follow those requirements and sometimes impatiently. But we are beginning that process now. I think, as you've seen, the types of executive level positions that we've been recruiting, certainly visiting Vice Chancellor Porsanjani is a good example of that. You're going to see more of this effort from this office. But, you know, this is, as Vaughn described, a journey. This will be a difficult journey in many cases. Because as we overturn rocks along this journey, it creates a whole nother set of challenges that we have to overcome. But we've got to achieve the scale necessary in order for the student journey to be clear and consistent and as frictionless as possible, because very few of our students only take classes at one institution or within one division. They are lifelong learners. They cross multiple zip codes. They go attend many of our colleges. We have to focus on that student journey first and foremost, and that's going to cause us to rethink the way that we've been organized, and that's going to cause for some disruption. We're going to challenge the autonomy of the 114 colleges. We're going to have to find that line that allows us to achieve scale, but at the same time continue to respect the autonomy of the 114 colleges. And that will be a struggle over time. And I think Board Member Rollins is coming to us right at the right time, because technology is going to drive a lot of this change. I mean, if you just think about the education resource planning tools that we have, how much money has been invested, you know, we need to look at everything from that all the way down to ensure it's aligned with guided pathways and the amount of resources that we put into these tools. It's a tremendous amount of money that if we could better achieve economy of scale, more of that money could be put directly into serving the students rather than the technology that needs to be supported across 114 colleges.
I appreciate that. And in support of the Chancellor's office staff, they need to also get the skills and the knowledge and the opportunities to see what's happening on our campuses so that they can be better informed about the changes that are happening, so that their responses to it can be positive and not necessarily negative. Thank you.
All right, I have Board Member Fawn, followed by DeLily, Walker Griffin, Belansky, and Rawlings. Okay.
I think my
Go ahead,
comments,
Board Member Fawn.
excuse me, I think my comments and questions are actually somewhat addressed by Board Member Haynes and the Chancellor. But I do want to say that I appreciate and applaud your analogy with Amazon there. I thought that was a
Well
very
done.
easy way for us to kind of understand and take a good picture of what actually could be the experience of our students if we are able and successfully implement this initiative. I think my concern or comment reflects what the chancellor is saying there, in that if we're, and I'm looking at your technology enabling guided pathways, and many campuses out there are having a full campus discussion on guided pathways. And I think what we need to kind of look at is how can we actually have this discussion at the state level that would align with the campuses that are or will be engaging in the dialogue with their guided pathways, their own guided pathways, their individual district or campus guided pathways, because that could be 114 pathways separate. And how can this pathway that we're creating here mesh or align with those 114? And I hope it's smaller than 114 individual guided pathways, but I just want to raise that issue so that it's addressed somehow while the autonomy of the campus or the campuses is respected. Thank you.
Board Member DeLille, followed by Board Member Walker Griffin.
Thank you, Executive Vice Chancellor, Visiting Vice Chancellor. A lot of my questions have already been addressed, yet I really want to highlight just the importance of this presentation. I mean, I truly think this is the most important thing I've heard today. And from beginning to end, from enrollment to completion, I think a complete redesign and restructure of our technology is absolutely necessary. And I think the success that we'll have is beyond imaginable, beyond the data we have now. How we currently live, if our community colleges looked like Amazon or had the ease of Facebook and the clarity of Google, the success that our community colleges will have is unimaginable. So I guess my question is, this is a journey. This is a tough journey, a journey that I think has to happen, needs to happen, as we can all agree to that. Where are we on the journey? When can we expect, a final product, and what does that final product look like? And then that's a tough question to ask, is a tough question to answer. And when we do have that final product, what is our idea of balance between autonomy and we have 114 colleges, and we're going to have 114 similar websites, 114 similar tools that our students can use and navigate in between and structure throughout.
So let me give you an example of how we would actually roll out technology while honoring autonomy. So for example, I'm pointing to the slide. Could you activate the screen again? So on the guided pathway slide, this was a pilot. This was an experiment at using open standard technology. And what we wanted to do was do a proof of concept here, right? And so Bakersfield is showing us that is visualizing and actually rolling this out. And it led to other questions in terms of what's the data basing that has to be done in order for the data to flow. So then that led to a second set of work strand that we're doing, and we're doing with Executive Vice Chancellor Laura Hope. So we're doing that behind the scene work. In addition, we're also having this previewed with other colleges to say, hey, when you're getting into your guided pathway discussion, here's a tool that's available to you. Are you interested in using that? So this is, I think folks tend to be very uncomfortable with the top-down approach. So what we want to do is we want to offer up value propositions to the colleges, and we hope that we provide them that value. It makes it easier for them to adopt. There are also other pilots underway where we have 3 colleges. Do you want to talk about the pilot on the ERP and?
Right. So one of the major systems that are used at the colleges is their enterprise resource planning or student information system that connects all the operational activities of the college. So there are 3 colleges right now testing a new platform for ERP. But we're working with them to make sure that the ERP being one piece of that technology portfolio, that it actually connects that these 3 colleges can test a portfolio of tools that we can then showcase to the other colleges. Again, we're not going to tell them they have to adopt it, but we can showcase that it actually works, that it's helping students move through the pathway more efficiently. So that's the way the tack we're taking is showcasing stuff that works and then encouraging people to look at that. And even if they want to design their own, if they can see what a seamless experience looks like, then there could be other ways they can go about it.
Quick follow-up. This is great, and this is a great tool. And there's an entire PowerPoint on amazing tools. I was in the community college system for 3 years, and I've used pretty much every single one of these tools, and they're all great. They're all amazing. NetTutor, these are great tools. But I urge and implore you all to see the forest from the trees and to understand that our students currently, the status quo, our students aren't even able to go to these tools because of the confusion, because of the lack of user experience. So I think the first and foremost thing that we need to be looking at, that the problem that we need to solve, is how can we aesthetically and operationally fix our websites to the point where someone who's 22 years old and is on the board of governors, when I'm looking for summer courses, I'm not like, my gosh, and that's something that's happened. I think that needs to be number one.
I understand.
All right, Board Member Walker-Griffin, followed by Belansky, Rawlings, Aguinaldo, and Epstein.
I actually kind of like Griffer. That kind of flows well. I'm sorry for another question because I'm really picking at you guys today. Actually 2 questions. So how is this going to help out students who don't have access to technology? And I mean like a laptop or a computer, not necessarily an iPhone, because you can't do a majority of the assignments on your phone. It's just ridiculous, and the screen's quite frankly too small. In addition to that, I was looking at the fully online college design thinking team, and I was wondering what was the selection process to get people on that? Because myself and Aman, we weren't a part of that, so I was wondering how could we get more involved with that, considering that at the end of the day, it's going to come back to this dais where we both sit.
Board Member Walker-Griffin, I'm going to hold that online question because that's on a different agenda item. I think that's appropriate. Let's ask it when we come back to online college. Is that okay?
Sure thing.
No, but I don't want to shut you down, but that's why we have to divide it up in the agenda. But go ahead. All right, thank you.
So the first question is about access to the technology tools.
Yes.
So, for example, this tool, we made sure that in the design of it, it was ADA compliant as well as mobile friendly, mobile first. We also know that we have to have a sort of a range of access points. So, we continue to work with other, and this pertains to other issues in terms of delivery as well. The library system, the adult ed system, the local workforce system. So there's many systems that we have to work with in order to figure out how to have it such that students have no wrong door when they're trying to access higher ed. It's a complicated and multifaceted issue for sure. Keep challenging us. Thank you.
Thank you. I have Board Member Belansky, followed by Rawlings, Aguinaldo, and Epstein.
In a sense, you've been talking about this, but I'd like to keep bringing it up to better understand it myself, because typically I would be one that would go back and share some of these things in my district. Or anyway, in the brief that we read about this agenda item, it says the Chancellor's Office has recently created a set of student journey maps to highlight the most common student personas, their current experiences through our system, and more importantly, their desired experiences through their educational pathways. The student journey maps inform opportunities for evolving the educational technology and data infrastructure. Now, are there pathways already built, that journeys maps built that could be used locally?
So those student journey maps were shared with the colleges through 3 different webinars, and I think we had about almost 1,000 people who attended, where we shared these student journey maps. And
do you know how many colleges that 1,000 people represented? Because what I typically find out in other instances, and I just mean this seriously, not a negative thing, but there'll be a number of colleges that will say, I never heard anything about it.
Well, we certainly can make those, send out those student journey maps to make it available to all the board members, and we can also do custom briefing if it.
But I mean, has it gone out through some kind of message, say, to the college presidents, the college CIOs, academic deans?
Not systemically, I think, the way you're explaining, but certainly something we can follow up on.
Yeah, because the thing I always find, and that's just my experience, I'm not trying to be negative or anything, but there are a lot of good things that happen, and somehow all of the colleges don't know they're happening.
Okay.
Thank you.
And this would be great. Now, one last thing, and then I'll stop. As you build these and do this work, do you involve students in any way?
Actually, one of the projects we're taking on right now is to simplify CCC Apply and make sure that it sort of connects with the next phase of their work. And we have focus groups with students on that particular tool.
Because student voice is most important.
Absolutely.
Board Member Rawlings, followed by Board Member Aguinaldo and Vice President Epstein.
Thank you. So as I hear some of the answers you've given, it brought up a few more for me. And, I think through this project that you're doing and to its natural conclusion, and it's hard enough doing a conversion of just a single system, and now you're doing it with so many systems and trying to create a common platform. It's absolutely daunting from someone that knows what you're up against. And so it creates a few challenges. I think you answered a little bit of it in incentivizing through cost efficiencies for the districts having a common ERP. And I mean, we're helped in a little bit by the marketplace having kind of done a self-selection of a common ERP. And so hopefully the lift won't be too hard to get people to adopt it. But I can see how having these different programs kind of integrated on a common platform, then leading to the student information system, and in that student information system be able to transfer data from these common platforms to the local college, and that then feeds data for the Guided Pathways project and some of the data that might be at the local college. Through that, though, there's a lot of data getting handed off from one vendor to another, and that creates a huge problem with security intrusions. You've opened up, multiple ways of people getting into the system. You're going to have to, where now you have independent platforms, they don't have to have APIs necessarily that work with one another, and now you're going to have application interfaces between vendors and common data. And so I'm worried a little bit about security. How do we keep student data secure? And then what involvement, kind of along the route that Board Member Baum was following, is what role is our community college system security, information security center involved in creating those standards and, in a way, enforcing those standards, doing accountability of these vendors for intrusions, things like that?
I want to go back to the slide is up, the one on data services. So one of the challenges we face today is that because the applications have been created by different parties, and some through some districts as well, data is literally residing all over the state, on different servers, different people managing them. So if the concern with data security exists very much today. The plan for data services is actually pull that data in to a data lake. Sorry, I'm using technical terms, but pulling it all into one big bucket of data that then different applications can use. That allows us to more centrally manage the security of that. In terms of working with the colleges, I think you'll see that one of the items that goes across everything that we're doing is information security. And we are very interested in making sure that our data transmission back and forth from the colleges is secure. Yes, hope that answers your question.
Great. Board Member Aguinaldo.
Thank you very much for your presentation. What I like about this particular IT tool is that it seems to be very responsive to a very common sense question. It seems like, for example, if a student changes disciplines or majors, that the map would change and accommodate the new disciplines that are required. Hopefully, in the future, it would be harmonized with the availability of certain courses, so it'd make it easier to enroll. Because even if the roadmap says you have to take a certain, Chemistry 101 class, that all depends on whether that 101 class is available.
Yep.
All of these seem like roles and duties which were primarily owned by academic counselors in the past. And I know academic counselors are a big part of the guided pathways plan. So can you explain, and I know your specialty is more IT, but can you explain what you envision the role of counselors being now that you've kind of changed the role using a technology product? So not only the future of what their role would be, but whether they have buy-in, whether they've been consulted in developing this product, and just generally how the future changes with respect to counselors. And I know that somebody mentioned that students are very important, should be involved in the design and development for this project, but it sounds like this is also something within the counselor's wheelhouse.
A little bit of my background might help. So I actually came to the Chancellor's office. Prior to this, I was a Chief Information Officer and a Chief Instructional Officer and a Chief Student Services Officer. So I have experience working with students and counselors, and we certainly don't want to take the role of counselors out of this. That's not the goal at all. It's really to empower that process so that it's more. The students get a more say and more play in that, and also be able to scale it, because we certainly we don't have enough counselors to meet with students all the time, correct? And when they change their major, there's just not enough time and bandwidth for them to meet with every counselor. So I think part of this effort is to make sure that we're supporting that work, the guided pathways, and students working with counselors with tools. So colleges have been installing and implementing these tools for some time now. At my college, for the last 5 years, we've been doing degree planning tools, right? They've been proprietary degree planning tools, and they have not been available to students. They were primarily, if you meet with the counselor, you get to use the tool. So what we're trying to do is help encourage tools that the students themselves can work with, can create tentative plans, and if they want to meet with a counselor to go through that plan, that expedites the process a lot more than what we have experience with today. And this is different from college to college, obviously. Every college has a different process and experience for students.
I guess, what do you see as the future of their role, given that you've kind of taken that responsibility and put it in the students primarily?
What I would hope for is that the students have tools that have been tested with students and by students and by counselors, and the students can work with those to create tentative plans, and then they get to meet with counselors and to confirm that plan, right? I think you brought up a couple of other points. It would be wonderful if the student scheduling for courses happen in conjunction with what their plan says, right? But for that to happen, more students need to have these electronic plans for us to be able to, as administrators of the college, to design our schedule of classes around those. So it happens both ways. One is we offer courses in such a way where the student can finish in 2 years if they want to. The other way is that their ed plans actually informs our scheduling practices. So both of those have to happen, and they are happening at some colleges, just not widespread yet.
If I can add really quick to your question, we are in no way, shape, or form taking away the responsibility of mapping out courses of the counseling and advising function from our counselors. If you recognize our system is different than the CSU or the UC or most other colleges and universities in that we don't separate the advising and the counseling function. Our counselors are trained as counselors as well as advisors. What we're trying to do is ensure that students are getting good information, because students make decisions on their own every day. They're going to the catalog, they're going to the schedule, they're hearing from their peers, they're making decisions every single day. Some of those decisions are good decisions, many are bad decisions. And so we're trying to provide tools that allow for the work of the counselors on campuses that are designing the pathways, that are providing information to students and be able to increase the capacity of our counselors, not in any way remove the counselor from the center of this function.
I think empower was a good descriptor for what this tool would enable them to do.
All right, we have Vice President Epstein, and then we have public comment on this item.
I have one kind of narrow question and one broader one. As you know, I've been interested in financial aid and how complicated it is for students to sign up for financial aid when there's a bunch of different forms. And I was wondering, I don't see that exactly in here. How would this system make it easier so that you put in your data once and it can be applied to all different avenues for financial aid?
So we're testing one of those venues, as we had discussed previously, to when we have the information from a student on their application and from other various sources, ERP or whatever, when the student applies for the Promise Grant, we can pre-populate as much of the Promise Grant application that we can. We do that today, by the way. Not every college has adopted that model, but we can do it today. I think what we had talked about is there a way to actually fill out the FAFSA application, which would be wonderful. I think we're not quite to that point yet, but that certainly would be our ideal state where we can pre-populate these types of application for our students.
So that would be part of this roadmap over the long haul?
It would be. I think part of this is within our control. Part of it is negotiation with the feds and other kinds of things which would make it much more difficult. So that probably wouldn't be an immediate outcome of our work.
The other one is more broad. I feel in some ways like I'm reliving a nightmare. When I worked in healthcare, one of the projects that I had to work on was trying to take trying to develop a program or an initiative to get all of the electronic medical records in all of the doctors' offices and hospitals and health plans onto one interoperable platform. And as we kind of plowed through lots of money trying to do this, we discovered there were about, at least in healthcare, about half a dozen proprietary electronic medical record systems, none of which wanted to share their proprietary information, and made it exceedingly difficult to create what you were just talking about, this kind of common data platform where everybody could pull the necessary information out. And as far as I know, this hasn't been solved. Even my daughter even works in a New York State one trying to do the same thing, also without a lot of success. And so how do you think you're going to make this work?
So I think that's an excellent point. Let me see if I can take this in chunks, because I think it's very important to make sure that we deliver in pieces as we go forward, that we don't take all these ideas and then go hide for 3 years and then try to come up with the massive revolution of. But I think this is more of an evolutionary process. So when I mentioned that bringing vendors together to talk about a standard for storing education plans, they're actually very interested in doing that because there's competition between them. They're interested in making sure that they're playing in that space. We're a very large system, so these vendors are actually very interested in working with us. And I think it is important for us to maintain that competition between the vendors, right? So when we talk about an ERP solution, I actually think it's a good idea to have many of them out there, so that because they improve their technology, not all at the same time, but in different timing, right? So it is important for them to know that we're looking for standards, and that the students can plug and play as they want to. But I agree with you that to say we're going to solve all of this all at once and it's going to replace all the ERPs with one, I actually don't see that as the solution we're pursuing. Excellent question.
Okay, so I think we have one public comment.
John Stanskis.
Good morning. I'm John Stanskis with the Academic Senate for California Community Colleges. Thank you for hearing me, President Estelano, Vice President Epstein, and Chancellor Oakley. I just wanted to say that the Academic Senate is fully supportive of a project to integrate all of the technology. I think we saw a huge expansion over time that did grow in silos that does not serve our students well. And I appreciate the Executive Vice Chancellor's willingness to sit down with me and talk about the challenges we see in terms of technology, and I have full confidence she's going to solve them.
In sprints, in sprints.
In sprints, but for example, the curriculum inventory and assist and CID need to talk to each other. They need to be things that talk to each other so that we serve our students better. I think the only caution I would have is that we need to be sure that we involve students and staff and faculty users at the campus to see how that works. When we look at sort of mapping out those courses by semester and the ideal world for the ideally full-time student who can take all of that, that the discipline faculty probably have a role to play in looking at how that is structured, and may have more insight working with the counselors about how that could be mapped into a generic form there. And so as we solve these systemic issues around the technology, to be sure to get some input from the field as we go forward. And thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. So before we move on, this was an information item. There's no action to be taken, but I do want to make just a couple of comments. One is thank you very much, Mr. Sanskis, for coming forward and talking about the importance of having users involved in the development of this. So I've talked for some time with some of you offline about, we have some standing committees, we don't really use them, but I have thought for some time that we do need a technology committee. And we are blessed to have a new board member, Bill Rawlings, who actually knows something about technology. So I've talked to Bill a little bit about this. So in the next month or so, I'm going to be talking to a few of these. But if any of you are interested in that, I definitely would like to have a student representative on that committee. And Mr. Walker Griffin, I'm sorry, Iman, you're leaving us. If you're interested, or maybe the successor to Mr. DeLilly might want to be interested. But I think that's important to have a student representative. You're the ultimate user group. It's about your seamless experience. But this will be a number of members of the board. So if you're interested, please come and talk to me. But Mr. Rawlings, I think I'm going to make you chair it. Okay. So anyway, this is, I think Iman's right. This is one of the most important things we're doing. And it's one of the hardest to do. And so I'm heartened that you aren't thinking you're going to solve it all at once, and that you are looking at biting off pieces of it. I always get worried when government tries to do a big technological fix or procurement because we don't do it well. And so I'm very much heartened by your approach and your understanding of the pitfalls and the ways to get around those. So I want to thank both the Executive Vice Chancellor and our visiting Chancellor very much for your support. And with that, we're going to move on. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to take one more item, which I think we can get through before lunch. And that is item 2.6, the Chancellor's Higher Education Innovation Awards. And Sandy Freed's going to come up and present. This is a cool item. I had the great pleasure to serve on the committee last year that was chaired by the Department of Finance. This year, the governor and the legislature had the selection process chaired and housed in the Chancellor's office. So it's probably a little bit of a different process, but still exciting to look at all the innovations going on in our system and award money to folks. How much fun is that? So Sandy, take it away.
And we are the most innovative system.
Yes, we are.
It should be here.
Yes.
Thank you, President Estolano, Vice President Epstein, members of the board, Chancellor Oakley. If we could have the PowerPoint show up on the screen. I think you all have it. I think it was all sent out to you on Friday.
Yep.
Okay.
There it is.
Put our own staff through a technology boot camp.
Go right ahead.
Okay. So I'm pleased to present to you the Innovation Awards for 2017-18. By way of background, if we can. Bear with me here. I do think I need an innovation technology. There we go.
Okay.
By way of background, these innovation awards were created 3 years ago and have been administered by the Department of Finance. Okay, thanks. And have been administered by the Department of Finance. In last year's budget, they were transferred to the California Community Colleges. The Chancellor's Office was designated the administering entity and the Board of Governors the awarding entity. Again, we got $20 million for these awards for 3-year grants. And the purpose, as with previous years, is to fund sustainable innovations, sustainable and scalable innovations to improve student success, focusing on populations that are underrepresented in higher education. And those are here, focus populations. Last fall, the Chancellor's Office asked the Success Center to partner in implementing the awards. Together, we established an awarding process modeled closely on the one used by the Department of Finance. We created an application. You can see here the questions and the scoring rubric, again, modeled closely on the one used by the Department of Finance. We added 2 elements. One was dissemination strategies to encourage adoption of these innovations throughout the field and partnership with the Chancellor's Office, and we added under state priorities alignment with the strategic vision. Here is a snapshot of the timelines that we followed. You can see that colleges had about 3 months to apply through an online portal. We offered webinars for applicants. We had about 100 participants, and those webinars were recorded and placed on the website so that folks that couldn't make them could tune in at a time that was more convenient. We had trainings for readers that were mandatory. You can see that we are now at the awarding. The process, we had 65 applications that were reviewed. Each application was read at least twice by 2 separate readers and averaged for a final score. Now, if the scores varied by more than 10 points, a 3rd reader was brought on. And if there's still that variation of 10 points or more, a 4th reader. We took the 2 closest scores and averaged those for a final score. Those scores went to a review committee that was comprised of the Chancellor's executive team and board members Rawlings and Conway. And that committee recommended the awardees that are before you today, as well as the award amounts. And these are the recommended awardees for the Innovation Awards this year.
Great.
I will refer you to and you can get a full or a synopsis description of the awards on page 63 of your book.
Thank you. I want to ask board members Conway and Rawlings if they'd like to say a few comments about the process and what you saw, or all of it. Board member Conway?
Well, I continue to be astounded by the innovation that we see in our schools, because I am definitely, as I look around this board, old school, really old school. And so it's heartwarming. And what I appreciated so much about it, and actually being part of the process, is not only the learning experience to look at these awardees, well, and all of the applications that we considered, was the ability, I'm hoping, to with these award winners, to transfer that opportunity to throughout the system. I mean, there are programs that show so much, and maybe they can benefit not only the students and the awardees, but the entire system, with that. I'm very much one of those that, let's don't reinvent the wheel, but let's make that wheel look really good, and maybe other people will want to roll with us, so to speak. So I appreciate the opportunity I had to do this. Thank you.
Board member Rawlings.
Yeah, thank you. The thing I found with this was, I think the readers did a great job. I think it was very interesting how we talked about the emphasis that we put on the certain weighting of different criteria, and how the weighting.
I don't like to talk about weight. I know. But go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, but how the weighting of the different criteria was so important, and we need to be very intentional with how we add weight to certain categories, and as we communicate that out to the applicants. But like Member Conway shared, the amount of innovation happening out there is extraordinary. Some of these ideas are really exceptional. I'm looking forward to when they scale beyond their host colleges and really get integrated into hopefully throughout the system. Particularly an area that I thought I saw some really great work being done is on reducing recidivism through using our local colleges in those communities, reducing recidivism, but really taking it beyond that, but taking their time either while they're incarcerated or certainly immediately after they're incarcerated and getting them to the point where they are contributing back to their local community. Being rather than someone that may have been a detractor at some point from their local community, really becoming a contributor and really helping build their communities. And some of this work focused on those areas was really fantastic. So I look forward to seeing the impacts on those areas and on the economic development in those areas. Thank you for the work.
I want to note, you all talked about the criteria, and I'm very impressed by the scale, the fact that you did fully 40% of the points were about dissemination and scaling up. And that's always been what this is about, right? We can have pilot programs, we can have innovative strategies here and there, but it doesn't mean anything unless we can take it to scale and get it out. And so I was really heartened that those were such important elements of the award process, and I applaud you for doing that. I also wanted to note that if you look at, I'm just going to read who won. I'm not going to get into all the details, but Shasta Tehama Trinity Joint Community College District, Foothill de Anza, Laney College, Glendale Community College, San Mateo Community College, Santa Rosa Junior College, College of the Redwoods, Imperial Valley College, Chaffee Community College, Kern Community College, Irvine Valley College. From every corner of the state, we had innovative programs that rose to the level to receive an award. This is what we are hoping to do with the Vision of Success, and this is just really the next scale, is to take those folks who are taking the risks, who have developed these programs on their own and are ready to take it to the next level, and rewarding them for that, and lifting them up and trying to get these amazing programs to scale, because we can't wait for another generation. We need to deliver for our students. So with that, are there any other comments or questions? And then we're going to bring up the awardees to applaud. Wait, I got it. And then we're going to take a group photo. Okay, we have Board Member Fawn, Board Member Avalos, Board Member Baum.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's not my intent to comment on every item at this meeting, by the way. But on this particular one, I do want to thank my two fellow board members for servicing. And I think, Bill, the board chair has really put you to work since this is only your second meeting. I counted the 11 awardees, and the topics that were awarded were around 6 or 7. They center around incarcerated, counseling, tutoring, assessment, peer mentoring, student mentoring, pathways, and veterans. And I just am thinking aloud here in that since these are innovative strategies and real innovation at these 11 campuses, and in speaking of scaling up, I wonder if there's a way through this grant 3-year process that rather than these strategies being implemented only at the 11 or so campuses, if there's a way that those wonderful strategies and innovations can be shared with the other 103 colleges, if my math is correct, so that, because I just fear that these innovations are kept as a secret at the awardee institution and not shared with the other institutions. So I don't know if there's a way that we can devise at the state level to make sure that these strategies are shared with other campuses. Those are my questions.
That's a really good point. A couple of points I'll note. The first is that we've asked all of the awardees to create a toolkit so that other colleges who are interested in seeing if they can implement the innovation have a kind of a roadmap to do that. And we are going to work with the Professional Learning Network to put that up on the PLN. And the other idea that we have is we've asked the awardees to participate in an innovation forum here in Sacramento, where we can showcase what they've done, invite other colleges, invite legislators, invite the board members to see down the road what these innovations look like, how they've been scaled, and the opportunities other colleges have to implement them as well.
Member Avalos.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the presentation. My question is, and first of all, congratulations to all the awardees. It's amazing work. My question is, how do we determine the amounts?
The amounts were determined by the review committee, and they were essentially, the review committee felt like a $1 to $3 million range was appropriate for the innovations that were proposed. And so most of the award amounts came in right about the requested amount, except for one award that was taken down. It was at a $4 million level, and it was taken to $3 million. And the committee just felt like the innovation itself and the time frame, $3 million was a more realistic and appropriate award amount.
Board Member Baum, followed by Board Member Haynes and Walker Griffin.
First, I think this is a good example of also something that was administered by another agency that was rightfully, logically or wisely transferred back to the Chancellor's office for administration, and I hope that sets a precedent for future direction. The other is just teeing off the last topic. I see 2 of these 11 are for creating new technologies to better serve the student experience. And so if there's a lesson that we could learn too, perhaps to support both objectives, is to find ways, if we're going to have the opportunity to grant and incentivize, that they can somehow integrate a common platform to do that.
Board Member Haynes, followed by Board Member Walker Griffin.
Thank you. First off, I just want to commend all of the awardees. And I too really hope that this permeates down to the other colleges and districts across the state. I just want to make certain, and most of these awardees, one of the elements of what they are doing is not to do a subsection of students, not to do full-timers versus part-timers. Make certain that when you're scaling for all students, and that is absolutely commendable. And I want, for me, as we do guided pathways and as we look at these, scale is critical. And I want that, for me, that's at the forefront, because pilots, we need to get out of the framework of a pilot. Mm-hmm. It needs to be discrete if it is one, and then we need to move on to scaling. The other is to ensure that as we are looking at our colleges and our districts, that those solutions and those innovations include our part-time students, which represent 40% of students who we are serving. And so to the extent that we are wrapping our arms around those students to integrate them and align them with the work that we are doing, that we call innovation, that they are also at the forefront of our decision-making process.
Okay, and I think Board Member Walker Griffin is the last to speak on this.
I don't have any questions this time, but I just wanted to say to the awardees, this is an amazing thing. I was on Facebook yesterday, and I came across this video. This lady was talking about how you only hear about bad things in the news. And looking at this is so refreshing. A couple of schools that I wanted to highlight were Santa Rosa Junior College, College of the Redwoods, and Imperial Valley College. Santa Rosa, because I know you guys recently had those fires. I live in Contra Costa County in Hercules, so I'm right down the road from you guys. And seeing the strength of those students still pushing on and trying to pursue their education despite having one of the biggest catastrophes in the state is really inspiring. And with College of the Redwoods, working with Pelican State Bay Prison, which is a really notorious prison, for those of you who don't know, that's amazing within itself, because oftentimes we hear the same notion over and over again that men and women who have been incarcerated are bad people, but we never hear about that they're coming back into our societies, and that many of them made a mistake that's going to reflect on them for the rest of their lives. But just because one decision was made, that doesn't necessarily show how they are as a person. And seeing that Colleges of the Redwoods is making an attempt to better these people's lives, I think that's awesome. And Imperial Valley College trying to close these achievement gaps, because I've been down there before. It's a black and brown community, and quite frankly, it's in the middle of nowhere. I'm sorry, but I just had to say that. So to see that you guys are working to close these achievement gaps, I think it's awesome because I know you guys can often get left out when it comes to California, being that you guys are like 2 hours away from San Diego Airport. Oh my goodness. Thank you for all the hard work that each and every one of you guys have done, and shout out to every one of you. This is amazing.
All right. I do want to note that speaking of Imperial Valley College, they had like a double play here today, right? We had staff recognition as well as the Innovation Awards. This is also President Victor Jaime. He's going to be retiring soon. So this is a wonderful way for you to go out, President Jaime, and we're glad you can be with us today. So this is actually an action item. I'll entertain a motion perhaps from Board Member Conway and a second from Board Member Rawlings. I think I heard that correctly. Okay. All in favor say aye. Aye. Okay. No opposition? Great. It's been approved, and we asked the winners to come on up, and we're going to take a big group photo. This is a wonderful day. Thank you. Congratulations to our winner. Let's give him another round of applause. Okay, with that, the Board of Governors is going to break for lunch. We will be back at 12:45. 12:45.
All right.
We've got a lot to get through.